2025. This is the regular city council business meeting, and after reminding those in the audience at the table to make sure their phones are on mute or in a mode where it won't ring, I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Doug, could I call on you to lead us in the pledge?
I can do that.
Thank you, sir.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Miller. Could we start with a roll call, please?
Westwood,
Here.
Conley,
Here.
Daniels,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Browning,
Here.
Rude,
Here.
Tupin.
Here.
All right, thank you. I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
I second.
Okay, motion from Councilmember Conley, second from Councilmember Ronning. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's make it official, please.
Conley,
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Browning. Yes. Rude.
Yes.
Tupin.
Yes.
All right, I will entertain a motion for warrants payable.
I'll read you some of the highlights on what's available before you entertain. It was a very light period, 192,000 total. A couple big hitters was Republic Services, the monthly contract and some recycling for 58,000. Great West Engineering, they had a variety of services in there for 54,000. And after that, it's basically routine expenses. Northwest Energy, the utilities, 13,000. Sundance Solar System, 8,000. And covering Broadway for a capital project, 9,000. So nothing really exciting in there. Pretty quiet time.
All right, do you want to make a motion?
I read that.
I'll make a motion to approve warrants payable. Thank you, Doug. I'll second that.
I have a motion from Councilmember Tupin and a second from Councilmember Conley. Any further discussion or questions?
Nope.
Lonnie, do you know what was the covering Broadway for?
So that was the deposit for their total bill for the flooring for upstairs.
Okay, so it was basically just the deposit before they order materials.
Yep.
All
And
right,
what's the
thank you.
Sundance Solar?
That is for the solar systems at the
Pond?
recycling center
Oh,
and the public works.
okay.
Yeah, come in and there was some troubleshooting and some getting things back online and such. And we had, I don't know if you were in that Public Works meeting, we had we got a notice, and I don't know if it was one we intentionally generated by putting in a bad address or something, but Mike had been trying to get them to return a call, and anyway, we got a notice that said we had an unauthorized generator plugged into the system, and please call and get it taken care of. And so that was able to close the communication circuit, which he'd been trying to. So whether it was by hook or by crook, it worked, and so that's now being resolved and taken care of now, so.
Does that include the, solar down at the sewer ponds? Does that work?
I think that's part of that conversation, but
Yep.
not being certain, I don't want to answer affirmative, but I know those are all collectively going on.
Okay, and that's all Sundance?
All right, hearing no further discussion on the warrants, can we get a roll call, please?
Conley,
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Browning. Yes. Rude.
Yes.
Tupin.
Yes.
All right, thank you. For mayor's comments, I will first call out that you'll note that there are no minutes on the agenda this time. We just had a busy schedule and lots of things popped up, so we'll have 2 sections of minutes next time. I had one council member reach out to me on that. So it was not an oversight, it was an overload, so we'll have those next time. Also, in the way of corrections, at the last meeting, I had the long list of all the boards we were trying to get straightened out. I had nominated Madeline Cornfield to Parks, and that was a mistake on my part. I think so.
No, you didn't.
Oh, did I not?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
She didn't,
They had
that was
it in
her
the,
position.
they had it in the paper, so I was thinking maybe that I had.
Nope.
So, anyway, so
No, it was her position that you
okay.
were filling.
there is an open position on the front page, for those who are interested for Parks. Letters need to be received by 5 p.m. on April 17th. And where you can go in to see that is if you go into the front page of the webpage and click on news and go to current board vacancies. That's where you'll see the positions that we have open out there. Also, in the way of parks, May is going to be Parks Cleanup Month in Red Lodge. They had discussed about having a specific day, and based on past histories where the weather does what the weather does and wants to, regardless of the schedule, what they said they're gonna do is the entire month of May will be a Parks Cleanup Month, and so people who are like the sponsors for specific parks will be reaching out, like it one day it'll be the dog park, and there may be a lot of overlap, but that'll allow people to be involved with a couple of their projects. There is a plan to have a commemoration day, probably toward the end of May, that will let people know, but the details and date need to be set on that. And again, weather will be a factor in that. But the idea was that we'd use all of May to get caught up and cleaned up on the parks. The Brewery Hill grant has been submitted, so that's in, as has Eagles Nest has been submitted. We have not yet heard an update, had a meeting today with DES, and we have not yet heard an update on Rocky Fork to go ahead and move forward with that. So they're still reviewing it. They did acknowledge that it had been more than the 30 days they promised, but they also mentioned the current environment. So the manual review is taking a while on things. Also online, under news, the growth policy is out in the first public comment stage, and I say that because it'll be going to planning board, and then it'll come to council, and it'll be out there for public comment. Really encourage people in the community to go out and look at that. Again, it's under news, and then draft growth policy. This is the document that basically defines the ideal future state of what the city of Red Lodge looks like, and then the planning board and council can use that as they revisit zoning regulations and other things to help make sure that we're guiding us toward that defined and articulated ideal future state. So invite folks who haven't looked at that yet, who have an interest, to go out and do so. And planning board is tomorrow night, just as a reminder. My understanding is they are going over the growth policy tomorrow night and kind of reviewing the comments that have come in from the public. Also, under news, the CIP is out there, the capital improvements plan. That's another document that kind of is a planning document, ideal future state. That has not yet gone to public comment, but it is out there in its draft state, and we welcome public comment to put in there. The last thing I want to talk about is we have a special meeting that has been called for Thursday at 5:30 p.m., so the time is a little bit different. That has been posted in all of the regular spots, as well as online. The purpose of that meeting is we received the bid opening for the FEMA Bank Stabilization Project was Thursday, and Friday, after we already had the agenda out, Great West followed up with a letter and made their recommendation. And because that involves I'm tying up funds, what's the word I'm looking for? Confirming funds, it goes through council, and we are actually hoping that that project will be starting sometime next week in order to ensure that it is done well before the high water runoff. And so we have coordinated with council, and we'll have just a short meeting on Thursday. And again, those packets, you guys have, I've given you all the supporting documents, but they're also available online for the general public. And thank you all for your availability to work with that. I think that's all I have for mayor's comments. Any questions or? The calls for service from the police did not make it in time for the packet. It is posted online and it's out there. So that's available for the public as well. All right. With that, what we'll do is we'll go to the portion of the agenda. This is for public comment. Just a call out that we have 2 spots for public comment outlined on the agenda, one at the beginning of the meeting and then one at the end of the meeting. I recognize that some people may not be able to stay for the whole meeting and they want to come in early and get their comments in. The second thing I will add is that during the action portion of the meeting, we will have public comment on each of our action items. Okay? So with that, I'll go ahead and open the public comment. I'll look first to the chambers. If you're in the room, if you'd like to step up and state your name, direct your comments toward the chair, that's me, and you'll have 3 minutes to use. Going to the room? Seeing nothing in the room, I'll go to online. If you're online and would like to make a public comment, ideally have you turn on your camera or at least come off mute so I know there's an interested party. I'm looking at the list and not seeing anybody. There's going twice. And we'll go 3 times to make it official. Thank you. We'll close the public comment. All right, that takes us to the action portion of the menu. The first thing we have is we have the planning board appointments. I just want to preface this by saying I recognize this is a really significant position within the city, second only to this body as far as kind of helping guide and direct this town responsibly growing into the future. So this is a decision that I did not take lightly. I'd like to start out by thanking the 2 individuals who have filled their terms, Jeff DiBenedetto and Teresa Whistler, who've both been on the board and both been very active and invested, and I'd just like to thank them for their service. Sometimes I think we don't do that. I just want to do that before we move on. With that, there were 4 interested parties in 2 positions. These will be for a 3-year term now that's out there. And I would first look for, entertain a motion to confirm the mayor's selection of Jeff DiBenedetto to a reappointment to the planning board.
I move to approve, the mayor's selection of Jeff DiBenedetto to the planning board. I second that.
All right, I have a motion from Council Member Conley and a second from Council Member Rude. I will add that our pool was interesting this time. There was a couple of different factors. I have reached out to both the League of Cities and to our legal counsel to confirm that there's not any conflicts amongst any of the candidates that we're concerned about. And also, even though one of the candidates is a member of our own ranks, you are welcome to vote. It does not represent a pecuniary conflict. There's no bucks and conflicts. It doesn't count as the word is skipping my mind right now, but we're good. So you are
You're
welcome
allowed to
to
vote.
vote
Okay.
on these as well as to
That's
make
what
a
we
motion.
need.
2 so far. You've forgotten your word.
Yeah, I'm old.
It's been a long day.
All right. Anyway, we have a motion. Any discussion?
I've worked with Jeff for 13 years, and he's really, really good on the planning board. He brings to the planning board a lot of information that no one else has on the planning board, which is mostly from his Forest Service background, plants and vegetation, and things that you'll see that when we approve something, a new development or whatever, it's got a plan for the landscaping, and those plants are approved for this area. So Jeff brings quite a bit to the planning board. Besides having sat on it for so long, he has a lot of history on what's gone in the past, which is really important when you're going forward.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Can I get a vote, please?
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Ronnie? Yes. Rude?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
All right. Second, I would like to entertain a motion to confirm the mayor's selection of Sandy Conley for a 3-year term on the planning board.
I would second that. I would move to approve Sandy Conley for the planning board. If I can vote, I can move.
Love it.
I would vote you're out of order.
Do I have a motion? Is yours a motion, and then I need a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion
This
from
is really
Councilmember
awkward.
Conley and a second from Councilmember Daniels.
Very awkward.
Discussion at the table, please.
Well, Sandy, please don't take this personally. I enjoy working with you, but you had a chance in January to speak up and get appointed again, and you didn't. And I'm not gonna vote. I just think there's 3, Marcy, you're in the real estate business. You're in the real estate business. I don't think it has a great broad representation of our population if we have 3 people from the same profession representing the planning board, which has everything to do with that profession. So I just want to be honest with you that, I'm not,
And let me go ahead and say
sure,
that the appointment was for 1 year from the city council, and I was hoping for a 3-year term rather than every 1 year, as I said on the city council, that I get reappointed to the planning board. And frankly, Chelsea's done a wonderful job, but she will be over in 9 months. So there's,
Let's direct,
so that's
let's
one.
direct all the comments to me, please.
So that's one. The other one is Marnie. Where's Marnie? Marnie is the county appointee, and she's not held to a 3-year term. We've actually had 3 county appointees on the planning board in the last 5 or 6 years. So they change quite often, and I'm not really sure why, but they have. So, I think that my experience on the planning board is really valuable, just like Jeff. And that's why I would like to have a 3-year term.
Any other comments from the table, please?
I think that what Ann mentioned, it kind of has me
Yeah?
concerned. Three members of the same industry, is that an issue for residents of Red Lodge? Is anybody going to say?
I feel like if it isn't an issue, then why is no one else stepping up?
I just want to say that I've worked with Chelsea and I've worked with Sandy, and I've seen Sandy in action on the planning board. I voted for Chelsea because I thought she would be a good representative of what council wanted to bring forth to the planning board. And I trusted Chelsea to make sure that our concerns and our voice was heard. And I felt that she had the ability to, after working with her, to put her profession and her self-interest aside. So I was in full support of Chelsea in that. Sandy, on the other hand, I feel I have always respected Sandy on the planning board and the job that she's done on the planning board. I just didn't feel that I felt it was Sandy doing her planning board duties rather than her representing city council duties.
Yeah,
And I
understand
completely respect the role that she's played in planning board. I think she's done a great job on planning board, and I feel that she, like Chelsea, can put that, self-interest aside and do what's best for the city. So that was just my.
Yeah, I will say, though, I like having real estate agents because there is a high level of expertise just in land use, planning, zoning. It's what we work in every day. I do feel that there is a really good group of folks that can put that to the side and just, they can use that information for making educated decisions and staying informed of what's happening. But truly, I don't see that there's a lot of self-interest in those decisions that are happening, so.
Thank you.
I just, I stay with what I said, and,
Yep.
you know, none of us up here have expertise in running a city. I mean, we all can learn.
Mhm.
And I think that civilians should be able to serve as well, and they have an interest in their town. And I think some of my constituents would be a little, you know, concerned that there's 3 people from one industry, making these decisions. I'm gonna stand by that I'm concerned and won't be voting for Sandy, sorry.
I appreciate that.
Understood. One of the things I will add as well, one of the other entries we had was actually a developer, and I had kind of a similar question, which again is, I reached out to local municipality for a couple of things, for feedback on that. And then also, a concern that for a time period, even though it's a short time period, we would have 2 members of council on there. And their feedback was, as long as you're not creating a quorum of council, they said, how many people do you have on council? So 2 people doesn't constitute a quorum. That was their only concern from logistics wise. And part of it, what their feedback was, that's the byproduct of small town Montana and who throws their hat in the ring, and that's what you have to work with.
Yeah, good point.
So,
And it is, you know, as someone who's in the real estate industry, of course, we have a lot of input in the planning board. simply because we know everything about all the subdivisions, and we also know the things that went wrong with those.
It's true.
There were some things that I voted on that I wish I hadn't, and I didn't because I listened to other people and made a calculated decision on that one, and so there are bad decisions that all of us on the planning board have felt that we could have done a better job at. I don't have anything that, and I know that one of the members was a developer, and my concern with that member obviously was because the properties that they bought, they're going to have to further develop. And that would mean that they would have to recuse themselves in the growth policy and in zoning and so many other areas
Yeah.
where I don't have that conflict of interest.
I had that conversation too, because it was a concern, it was felt that they wouldn't necessarily have to recuse themselves from the general things like the growth policy, but there were gonna be decisions that were there.
Yeah.
The other factor, as I looked at the four candidates we had to do with kind of the leadership of planning board long-term. We've got some folks on there that are somewhat senior and have indicated they'd like to step down at some time. I'm certainly not pushing them toward the door, but with Sandy's past leadership, including as the chair of that, I felt like it provided us a good depth of bench that allows those people on there to have those choices available. They didn't feel like they were painted into a corner. If somebody feels they need to step away sooner than their term, they need to be able to do so. All right, any other further discussion, new information? All right, hearing none, could I get a roll call, please?
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Ronnie? Yes. Rude?
No,
Tupin?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Again, like I said, it is an important position. I have taken it very seriously under consideration, and I appreciate the fact that you all have as well. So Ann, thank you for that. I will entertain a motion for ordinance 970, and if the motioner would, please specify that it's second reading and public hearing as well.
I move to approve ordinance number 970, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Red Lodge adopting by reference the 2021 edition of the International Fire Code, regulating and governing the safeguarding of life and property from fire and explosion hazards arising from the storage, handling, and use of hazardous substances, materials, and devices, and from conditions hazardous to life or property in the occupancy of buildings and premises in the City of Red Lodge, providing the issuance of permits and collection of fees thereof, repealing ordinance number 915 of the City of Red Lodge and all other ordinances and parts of the ordinances in conflict therewith.
Good job on that.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion, well-executed motion from Councilmember Conley and a second from Councilmember Ronning.
That one
Be-
sentence.
Before we go to the public for public hearing and comment, is there any comments from the table on this?
No,
No.
I think that
The
covered
only
it.
thing that I would like to comment on is, just so that there's no confusion, we are not eliminating, recreational fires in the city limits of Red Lodge. And we are also, it's just, and any prescribed type burns have to go through the fire department now instead of the county, so that the fire department can review those. So they can still have their bonfire up at the high school, they just have to go through the fire department, and they do anyway, because they always have a fire truck on hand and stuff, so. Or, at Sam's Tap Room, when they have the Uller, they have to go through the fire department to get a permit. That's all
Rather
this
than the
does.
generic $5 permit that you
Right,
go online and
right,
it just
so-
issues it.
Right.
That's what we-
So we're not saying they can't do that, we're just saying there's a different means that they have to go through for those bigger
Right.
things like that.
Other comments from the table?
Well, I just want to say thanks to Tim and Tom for, presenting this, explaining it in detail and answering our questions. They did a very good job.
And then just in case there's some folks that maybe at this meeting that weren't at the last meeting, this code specifically referenced the 2021 edition. The reason for that, even though the 2024 code is out, is that 2021 is what the state has authorized, and so that's all the latest we can go. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing, and this is for public comment specifically pertaining to ordinance 970, adopting the International Fire Code. I'll look to the room. I'll look online. Again, if you'd like to speak, please turn on your camera and/or off mute. Not seeing anything going twice. And 3 times, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Back to the table. Any further comment? Could I get a roll call, please?
Conley?
Yes.
Daniels? Yes. Miller?
Yes.
Ronning? Yes. Rude?
Yes.
Tupin?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion for Resolution 3688.
Oh, I want to do this one. Resolution number 3688, I move to approve Resolution 3688, adopting the 2024 Eastern Montana Region Hazard Mitigation Plan.
All in one breath, good job.
It was little.
I second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Conley, a second from Councilmember Ronning. Any conversation at the table before I go to, Serena, who's online, to give us a brief overview?
I don't know who put this together, but wow, what a lot of information was in that.
Thorough, very thorough.
Okay.
I thank them because.
And this
that was
is,
a lot.
and for those who are interested in the public, looking at this in the public, this was part of the packet last week. We talked about it. We did not go on a page-per-page review because it is
308 plus 72.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
in the 400s, so. Serena, do you have anything you'd like to add to this before we, take further action? I think council is good, but anything that you've had come up since last time we discussed, the floor is yours.
Okay, I don't think I have anything really to add. I'm here for questions and any comments, but I do appreciate your guys's, the meeting that I attended a couple of weeks ago, and I thought we had a great discussion, and just remember that I'm always open for any comments, questions, concerns from the council and any of the community.
All right, thank you, Serena. And from a city standpoint, we very much appreciate, the active role and the great communications we have. Thank you. All right, any further discussion at the table? Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Conley?
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Ronning? Yes. Rude?
Yes.
Tupin?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. That concludes the action portion of our agenda. What we will move into now is the council work session. This is where council has a chance to review the things that they have been working on in standing committees, which are smaller groups of 3 to get things done. And this gives them a chance to bring that activity and work to the larger council and get questions. It's a step we try to go through, schedules permitting, to get us to the first part of the meeting being nice and boring, like the one we just had. So with that, I'm going to start out with public health and safety, and for that I'll look to Committee Chair Conley.
Okay, I've given everybody copies of the drafts that the committee has come up with. The first one is a pretty straightforward. It's an ordinance of the City of Red Lodge, Montana, amending Title V, Chapter 2 of the Red Lodge City Codes concerning the Police Commission. And basically, after running this past our city attorney, we determined that it's in the best interest of the city to amend City Code Title V, Chapter 2 concerning the Police Commission to be in line with Montana Code annotated Title VII, Chapter 32, Part 41. And that's exactly what we did in here. And that way, when the state changes their police commission requirements like they have already, we don't have to change our ordinance. The changes that we saw was one that we had it as a 4-year term and the state has it as a 3-year term. Another thing is that there are specific rules as to appointing one of the commission members each year so that their terms are yeah.
Staggered?
Yeah, every.
Do I get one word back?
Every year we have to, yeah. My words are, I'm reading instead of,
Okay.
so anyway,
I think it was a change on duties too, right? They had duties that were
very limited.
appropriate, yeah.
Limited duties. So, this just kind of makes it easy if anybody has any questions on the police commission.
Are there any
So-
questions from the table, or are we okay
We're-
moving that for action next time?
Does the state, were they narrower in the scope of the duties?
They were narrower.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
There was, I think we had an appeals process that's been kind of gummy, and that was when they went in to look at it, they said, well, this doesn't even exist at the state, why do we have it? That was one of the, that and the terms were the two things that drove it.
And so this made it kind of simple.
Okay,
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Hearing no objection, we'll bring that forward next time. It is an ordinance, so it will, we'll get a number assigned, and it'll have 2 readings and public hearings on it to be adopted. All right.
Okay, the next one is amending ordinance 941, an ordinance of the city of Red Lodge, amending the trash one. And what we've done is we wanted to require dumpsters. So under solid waste, you'll see in yellow, we added 1 paragraph. That's the only change to ordinance 941. And this morning, we did a little bit of amending to it. So now it reads on E, construction dumpsters and trailers. All construction dumpsters and trailers must have proper and functional lids and be closed and secure at the end of the day to protect against the accidental dispersal of solid waste. Attractants must be stored in a bear-resistant dumpster and remain closed at all times when not being used to dispose of waste. So it was, and we did change it because a lot of the construction guys have trailers,
right.
open trailers. And they do have tarps or screens or other types of ways to secure it because they can't tow it open.
Right.
So, we thought that this would cover those as well.
Don't know that a tarp is a functional lid, so.
Well, the
I mean,
the
I don't
function is
secure.
not dispersing.
Right, I'm just saying, I just don't want him to get in trouble for using a tarp rather, because a lid is something that would,
Yeah, I would just say instead of the word lid, just have enclosure or cover.
Covers?
Just, as long- I mean, as long as
Cover.
it's getting the right point across, that it
yeah,
has to stay contained, I don't see an issue with that.
yeah,
And then that will cover the
Yeah.
cover,
yeah.
That'll cover the cover.
the covers.
So
Yeah.
replace
Or
the
tarp.
word lid with cover.
And functional covers, and will be
Well,
closed.
Or
and
cover-
secured.
enclosement, or,
Yeah,
Proper and
I wouldn't even
functional
say
coverage.
functional, I would just say,
Proper cover.
yeah.
yeah, to
To be
secure,
secure at the end of the day.
And then there is a part of that that says if there's an attractant, that's gotta be in a bear-resistant container. So this is
Correct.
just
Yep.
addressing the
Right.
the blowing trash and that
Yep.
tends to be
Debris.
most, I mean, it can be somebody just doing a spring cleaning, but at the same time, the most common thing we encounter is construction trailers.
but, did,
So are you having a problem with the word functional?
Oh, just functional lids. Basically saying lids doesn't cover a broad enough.
because they don't have, construction trailers do not have lids, or functional lids. They'll tarp them before they drive away with them, before they transport them.
But if that keeps it from blowing out on the freeway, won't that keep it from blowing out in a storm?
Right.
It will, but you don't need a lid, I mean,
That's what she's saying, is
you
the,
don't
hard
need a,
lid.
you don't need a lid, you don't
We
need a
don't
hard
want-
lid
we don't
for
want
it.
we're trying to
lid.
cover a broader spectrum of
that's-
things that can cover.
You're going back to covers
Yeah.
rather, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So it should now read, all construction dumpsters and trailers must have proper covers and be secure at the end of the day
Yeah.
to protect against accidental dispersal
Yeah,
of
good with that.
solid waste, and we're okay with attractants must be
Yes.
stored.
But, no, you're just doing construction dumpsters and trailers. What about regular dumpsters, like for restaurants and stuff like that?
Wouldn't that just be covered?
That's probably one.
I think
Yeah, I
that'd be
feel like
covered
that's
by
already
attractants.
covered.
That's up in A, where it
That's
talks
solid
about
waste.
attractants.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So I don't think you necessarily even need attractants.
Than the one that's in the packet.
Yeah.
Pardon?
What
Oh,
you're
yeah.
reading is different than what's
So,
in the
so yeah,
packet.
that's
Maybe
for those in
clarify that.
those
just
who were
put that
maybe
up front,
online
give
looking at what was in the
everybody
packet. There was an edit made during this morning's meeting that we are looking at, that is not yet reflected in the online packet. It would be reflected in next week's.
Yeah, I just wanted
So,
to make sure you get clarified.
you-
that
Thank you.
What I was looking at is not what you guys.
Okay, so you're saying that dumpsters are included in the metal or plastic containers? You're not, in A, for like, businesses, commercial businesses and stuff that have dumpsters.
No, it's not included. We're concerned more about construction dumpsters. When it says solid waste shall be stored in metal or plastic containers having tight-fitting covers, they didn't say lids, and shall be handled in a manner that does not attract bearers, et cetera, generate odors, or permit blowing of paper.
Okay, but I thought we were gonna also address dumpsters in general, like for commercial businesses, not just for construction trailers. Was I wrong about that?
Do they not have to have bear resistant, aren't they? Isn't
No.
that part of A?
This morning, we
Well,
added the
that's-
term construction. It was dumpsters, and then we changed
Okay.
it to dumpsters and trailers. Then we changed it to construction dumpsters and trailers.
Okay.
So, I think we're fine.
I agree.
Okay.
What I would like to propose, if council's okay, so part of these, this and the snow one were both driven by staff requests and difficulties we were encountering as we went out to try to enforce these things within the community. So if council is okay with this, what I'd like to do is have this reviewed by staff, and providing there aren't significant changes, then I think we could put it on for action at the next meeting. But if there are significant changes, I'd like to bring it back to the standing committee again to have you guys review the changes that staff comes
No
with.
problem.
Okay, this has gone through, Dennison. So I'll send this to staff.
I'll take care of that.
They'll take care of that,
So,
okay?
I just have one comment though.
Yes.
So on a dumpster, you do not have a tight-fitting cover. So I think that's where I'm saying, you know, a commercial business, like a restaurant, is going to have a dumpster. It's not going to have a tight-fitting cover, but they do have latches on them. So I just think that you should address specifically dumpsters.
But it says attractants must be stored in a bear-resistant dumpster and remain closed at all times, so.
No, where,
And-
no, that's
in the-
down below,
Still
but that's under
construction-
construction
that's still under
dumpsters.
construction.
I mean, because you added construction dumpsters and trailers, that doesn't apply to regular
Correct.
commercial businesses.
What if
If-
we
if
took
we
out
give-
from construction?
Yeah, both in first and second instance of it. Does that
And
solve it?
And then just keep it dumpsters.
And trailers, and
Okay.
then all dumpsters and trailers?
Yes. Then
And
it-
that
then
will
it'll-
clean it up?
Covered in
Yeah.
So it's dumpsters and trailers, all dumpsters and trailers must have proper
The-
covers.
Or, like some restaurants, like, well, I'm just saying, like,
This is how we keep the
I
first
know.
part of the meeting boring.
The boxcar has their dumpster, and typically, I think they have something built, a lot of them have something built around it. So they do leave it open so that they can just throw their stuff in it. So,
Bears can
I
climb.
don't
They
think we
don't,
do.
they never
Don't
leave
they?
them
No,
open.
they
okay,
don't.
no, okay.
They
No.
I'm just,
closing at night.
yeah, they close it at night.
They
I
close
know.
it during the day too.
They keep
Do they?
it closed, and there's
Yeah.
an actual, like, there's even I think there's an actual gate cover over. the
That's
public.
what I'm saying, they've
Yeah.
actually built something around it.
No, that's not about right on the dumpster itself.
Yeah,
Oh.
there's another, so there's they have the enclosure, but
Enclosure
then,
as well,
yeah, it's like, we're not getting into that one.
And
Yeah.
again, let's go back to the root cause, which is public health and safety, and so we don't want blowing trash and we don't want bears being drawn into town.
Right,
And if there is blowing trash, there's no way to prove where it came from, even though there's an uncovered dumpster. According to the police chief,
Yeah.
you have to actually see it blow out of the dumpster
Right.
in order to do
Right.
anything about it.
and I guess my main thing is like the commercial dumpsters downtown, when they're overflowing after a busy weekend,
Mm.
you know, there's no way to, watch those.
So they
Until Monday
should,
morning when,
Somebody shows up
Yeah.
and they realize there's.
so you're saying
Republic-
they should be keeping their trash in the building until they,
no, I'm not, I'm just saying that, I mean, until Republic Services shows up Monday morning, they're not gonna show up Sunday and empty the dumpster.
Have we had those issues?
Yes.
I,
After the
lot.
Fourth of July, after the
A
American
lot.
Rally, have you driven down the alleys, like, by the
Oh,
Snow
yeah.
Creek and the restaurants behind Bogarts and,
I was under the impression that all of the Republic Services dumpsters provided were
Private.
bear-resistant containers.
no, they're, no,
Sorry.
Supposed to be
no.
closed.
Challenge
They're
accepted.
closed, but they're not
They-
resistant,
and they
no.
don't have a bear resistant option.
They don't, and that's why I'm saying that this isn't really addressing the downtown commercial business
But,
district.
we're talking about two special occasions.
Would
July
it,
4th and the Harley weekend.
it's every weekend in July, it's all summer,
I
it
think
can
it's
be
more
all,
of a summer.
it's a
Yeah.
summer thing.
I mean, I would say that, again, unfortunately, Republic doesn't have
Weekends.
bear-resistant dumpsters, because I have been down that road
Okay.
with them.
So what I'm hearing is we'll put this on the lower part of the agenda. There's been some feedback,
For discussion.
and for discussion, and please continue to work on it in the
And I
background.
guess what I'm saying
And the
is,
concern is no
that
such
we're-
thing as bear-resistant dumpsters.
Yeah. thank you, we could be passing an ordinance that is unenforceable because there's
Oh.
nothing for them.
And that's what we're trying to get away from, so.
Right.
So we'll put it back into public health and safety to discuss. Okay. And the last one was 910, second amended. And
Just removed it.
yes, Dennison suggested that I simply, copy the entire ordinance and then cross off those sections we're removing, which you can see in here. The committee felt that for the purpose of this chapter, the paved multi-use path along Highway 212 extending northward, more or less, from the traffic circle at Third Street shall not be considered a sidewalk and shall therefore be exempt from the requirement herein to remove snow and ice from thereupon. We would like to remove that because there are sidewalks there. There is going to be sidewalks there. And as it is, people do walk there, and I think the only ones that clear their sidewalk is ProCut. And so we felt that all along Broadway, adjacent to a commercial entity, those sidewalks should be cleared. So, we removed the exemption that was from Third North. And the other thing we removed is the ordinance originally had all of the, penalties for noncompliance in it. And instead, we crossed all of that off and just simply wrote penalties for noncompliance will be set by resolution of the city council.
I would like to request that when we do bring this forth for action, that we also have that resolution ready, that even though it's just transferred over, because otherwise, we're gonna put something in place that's missing a chunk.
Without a resolution?
Yeah, so let's have that resolution. And Public Works today, Mike indicated he's gonna go through this as well. There was a couple of concerns that I know had been brought up that were not yet addressed. We talked about sidewalks, but there was also concern about snow being piled up at intersections so that it was blocking visibility.
Yep.
And, Mike had some wording and some guidance that basically says snow goes on the property owner. It goes perpendicular of the center line to the corresponding property owners. The idea is your snow is your snow.
Keep it.
Don't push it to the neighbors and don't push it into city alleyways. And so I know this part was kind of titled in specifically on just sidewalks. But there were some other elements from the snow that had come up. So I know we're gonna get some feedback from him, later this week. And so I think this will be back in committee
Okay,
next week.
okay, great.
Is there any other input other than what I captured from those committees that you guys wanted to relay on? For the committee to work
The
into
only
that?
other question I had, if we're gonna do a resolution, are these offenses, is that enough? In other words, the first offense is a written warning. I know we've talked about this recently.
Just keep them
The
up there.
second offense is a $50 fine, the third offense is $100, and the fourth offense, within a 2-year period would constituting maintaining a public nuisance, and then that goes to a state NCA.
And then there's also the cost of snow removal.
Yep.
If they violate it, that they can end up paying for that. And I think that's ultimately gonna be more than what the fine is.
Yeah.
I just think that a $50 a fine, in other words, I had talked to ProCut, and they said a typical fee for clearing the sidewalk in front of a typical 50-foot, commercial business is $50. So, I was thinking that the second offense should be $100.
That is certainly within council's purview to set those rates, so
Well, they can-
I defer to council.
Technically, the first offense would be a warning, and if 24 hours later they don't remove it, then they can get another fine. I mean, it's not like, it's like a one and done, it's like you haven't removed it again, you
Yeah.
know? So, I mean, they could technically, I mean, you might wanna put some time limits in there, and when does the city remove it? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and then charge them, you know, first
Okay.
offense, you get, you know, after 12 hours, you get a written warning, another 12 hours, the city removes it, and you pay for it. The next time it happens, you get a $50 fine, 12 hours later, the city removes it, and you pay for it, you know, type of, have it escalate. That's just a suggestion of having
I like that.
it escalate that way.
We'll talk about it in committee and see if the
Yeah.
committee can come up with some
And
numbers.
again, those fees and rates are council's purview, so
Okay?
all you have to do is get, all to agree,
Mhm.
or at least four of
Make
you.
it so easy. And the last thing that we discussed in public health and safety, I think that was it, actually.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. I'm done.
All right, so the last two are gonna be on the lower part of the agenda, next time standing committee still.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for public health and safety from the rest of council? All right, hearing none, we will go to, where's my big one that tells me what order we do these in?
I'm in finance, but give me a second here, I gotta.
Oh, there it is, right there on top. Admin and finance, and so we will go to committee chair Ronning for that.
Yes, I'm just pulling up this,
I'll save my question.
is that the?
Marijuana?
No, you resent it to us.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Denison.
Oh, we did get an update that I don't
Yeah.
have printed.
I know, I was like, I'm
Um,
not
I have it in
there.
front of me if you'd like to look.
The one that Dennison did after this morning's meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is, and just a reminder, given the crowd that we have there, this is currently, council discussion on these items. There will be a public hearing, or a public comment section following this.
That's
So,
right.
right now, the discussion is at the table. So this is an ordinance on,
There it is. Have it.
did you find it?
I did.
Okay.
Give me a second, sorry. So anyway, what we're discussing is an ordinance, regarding, marijuana businesses within the city limits of Red Lodge. When we, originally passed this back, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2022. So, yeah, 3 years ago, we did not actually have this, citizens thought we needed an ordinance. And, so here we are. And specifically, this addresses, it codifies, what we had in zoning about the capping, the 2 licenses in town to 2. And this includes but not limited to dispensary, cultivator, manufacturer, combined use licensee, testing, laboratory, and transporter facilities. So we currently have, those 2 licenses are used, so there is no more room in town for anyone else at this time. And then we also talked about, down the road, we will be putting a resolution together in the committee. We talked about this, putting it before the voters in our November election, is that correct? Letting them vote on whether or not they want to allow cultivation and commercial cultivation and manufacturing within the city limits of Red Lodge. Because we don't really have that zoned, and it's more of an agricultural, with the cultivation, use, and the manufacturing is more of an industrial use. So the only way that we can say we don't want it in the city limits of Red Lodge is to have it voted on by the public, the general population. So look for that to be coming down the pike. So that would, but right now, we're not really worried about it because we already have those 2 licenses being used.
So,
Go ahead.
what this ordinance does is, the process they had before was kind of a one-time process. It didn't address what happens in the future if there's a change or anything happens. So this ordinance finalizes that. It pretty much keeps in place the same structure that was there. The additions that they added today, was a little bit of additional clarity, basically saying if there's an existing business type, aka retail, in a specific location, aka XYZ 1 street, then that is reviewed by the city, and if it's sold, they don't need to go through an at-large application selection process like they did the first time. It's just a transfer basically of that existing business in use to a new owner. Otherwise, it basically just reiterates that the process that was used the first time is still there and in place and goes back into effect. So that was the, I want to say there's two changes that he made. That was,
The codifying it too.
oh, and then the
Yeah,
second one was to create,
Actually, code it, that's what it was.
put it in the code, and I actually don't see that here yet.
Here, it's there. That's when he did Title IV, Chapter 5.
Yeah.
All
And
operating
then-
city shall,
And it says Chapter 5 marijuana businesses located in Title 4 is hereby included in the City Red Lodge Code as follows, at the very top. Scroll,
As the header?
Yes,
scroll.
The
There you go.
header
There it
should,
is.
yeah,
Yep.
refer
yeah,
to
it's
the code.
solid, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I would question is on section 4, it says all marijuana business operating within the city of Red Lodge shall obey all federal, state, and local laws, and I don't think you want federal in there.
Yeah, that's a good
Now,
call.
do you want federal in there?
That is a good call.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
Good catch.
I can't say all federal law.
okay, yeah.
They can't do both.
Yeah, and I feel, I would like Dennison, I'd like to discuss with Dennison a little bit more on section 2. This is where he added, some of the language for the transfer, but it doesn't come off.
As well as we had it in the meeting. I don't think.
Exactly. I just think it needs a little bit of cleanup to actually say that this business can transfer. Because
Yeah.
again, it really doesn't cover that at all.
Ownership.
Yeah.
It's
As
the
we talk,
Yeah.
as we talk about the spirit of it, is council happy with the spirit of basically
Ba-
just making official what was
yeah,
done previously?
Basically, what we're saying is that if you're not changing the business and you're going, someone new is buying the business, there's no change to what they're doing. They just have to follow the normal application process. It doesn't open up the license to everybody in the United States to come and apply.
And I think we had 2 different points that we made this
Yeah.
morning. So if the business were to sell with their state marijuana license and that person buys it, they would not have to go under further review. If they are a different business entity buying essentially the registration and the ability to operate and maintain that registration in the city of Red Lodge, they would have to go through a qualifying process to make sure that they are just as qualified as the previous applicant.
So you're saying if they are already a state licensee,
Yep,
and he's buying another,
yep.
so if a state licensee buys a business here in town,
So if
they don't
Buddy's
have to,
J's
yeah.
came in and bought,
And
throw an
they're already
example.
licensed.
they're already licensed, but they're not buying, call it, Sweetgrass, we'll use that for the
It's
example.
transfer of ownership.
It would be that they could buy that registration, but they would still have to go through a qualifying process
With the city.
to to prove that they were just as qualified as the previous applicant.
But the qualifying process is different from an at-large
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
competition-based process.
Exactly,
yeah.
Yep.
So this is what we want to convey to Dennis.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that mean that someone who is a testing laboratory and has a license
Nope.
for that?
No,
No.
That would be in
That
their
would-
business.
That's a whole new business.
Yeah.
that would be a
Okay.
difference. in
Because they have to be essentially buying that registration,
dispensary.
which is the same business, same nature of business,
Same
same
thing.
location,
Yeah.
same protocols, all
Okay,
of that.
good.
Yep. So if someone were to come in and buy, they would have to be buying essentially that business model, that registration, that has to maintain that nature of business as previously applied.
So what I'm hearing is the intent of council sounds like it's pretty universally agreed on. What is not agreed on is that the wording conveys the intent as desired.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
And so we'll follow. Admin is, this was admin, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so we'll,
So Jody, do you want to take that to follow up, and then you can assign within your standing committee, whether it be Chelsea or somebody else to follow up with
Chelsea
Dennison?
Chelsea won't be here.
Well, she's not gone yet.
Okay.
I can work on some of the language.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yes, Chelsea, I just.
Oh, I'm going on vacation.
And we're not.
Don't worry, I'm coming back.
No, well, we
Yeah.
wanna get it done.
Gotta get it firmed up.
Yeah, we wanna get it firmed up. I'd like to be able to, if you guys are okay with the concept, then I would like to have it for
reading.
a first reading next time. And,
Can we do that, or is there enough change in the language?
well, this is just a discussion this time, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, we can always, you know, say we're not ready to have a first reading
Yeah.
and,
Okay.
and move it to the next, you know.
As long as we can have this available for the packet next time.
Yep.
Again,
Dennison can get it done in 2 weeks, then let's do it.
Yeah, he did that just today.
Very
Yeah.
quick. He's been very quick.
Yeah, so I think, I would hope so.
I would hope so.
Okay, and just for the public's awareness, once that wording is ready and available to the public in its corrected and edited form, this is an ordinance, so it would go through 2 readings with 2 public hearings. Much like we had during the public hearings today, it will go specifically open to the public, for comments in the close proximity of that. Again, if there's additional comments you'd like to make tonight, please scribble them down, and in just a couple of minutes, you'll have an opportunity to do that during public comment.
All right, and then, what else did we talk about?
Just
Oh.
907, a lot of
Yeah.
907.
Do you wanna chat about 907?
Sure, so,
You worked on it the most
oh,
today.
right, yeah, so we've been working on 907 for a long time.
Which means what to those people who don't have all the ordinances
I'm not
memorized?
done talking, David, jeez. Give me a chance, I can't speak very much, so.
What's she doing?
Ordinance 907 is our business registration ordinance.
Oh, I don't know.
Specifically, we have been trying to make that match our business registration fee ordinance as well, or resolution, I'm sorry, but also just making some updated, process for the city staff to be following for whenever we are doing city registrations. It used to be the business license, but we're changing that language to be registrations. And then also just making sure that certain registrations make sense for those businesses. So we're talking about temporary vendor permits, or vendor registrations, temporary vendor sponsorships to where someone could sponsor a temporary vendor. And then we're also talking about, short-term rentals and some of those categories and how that works within the city when one goes away and a new one comes in, because there's just some processes that the city staff is lacking. And so Dennison and Danae and Lonnie have already looked at this and made their notes, and we've been going through and making our notes, for a while now, a year.
I know. It
A
keeps getting
year.
put to the bottom of our agenda,
Yeah,
so I think
it's a big one. It has a
Yeah,
lot of,
I
there's a
know.
lot of different, moving pieces in it, and just a lot of really valuable conversation, I think. I think this has been a conversation that's been much needed, and it's gonna hopefully help promote local business as well as make the back end for city staff much simpler. So, we wanna do it right.
Yes,
That's about all I got.
yep.
All you can handle.
I already have another topic to speak on. so.
Any question, from the rest of council for admin and finance? All right, hearing none, let's go to land use and planning, and we will look to Committee Chair Froggy.
I used up all her voice today for admin and finance.
Okay, so land use and planning, today, I'm gonna keep this very simple. We are having a discussion about the resolution of, to direct planning board to review our zoning regulations for marijuana businesses. So this kind of goes in tied with, or it kind of goes along with the ordinance that we're working on now, just to make sure that we're cleaning up some of the language in the back end to really think of the longevity of marijuana businesses in our area and how that will affect our downtown districts, our neighbors, as well as the businesses themselves. So really going into that in a little bit more detail and making sure that it covers, one, not just the businesses at hand, but all the businesses that were voted on and approved by the local, or by the community, but also just making sure that it matches with our growth policy and our downtown plan for what the vision is of the community. So that's not something that will be happening, with planning board until likely later summer, after the downtown plan and the growth policy are in place. But we want to make sure that it is something that is on their agenda and something that they're thinking of now, so that way we can be moving forward and, again, being very thoughtful in doing so. So,
Is that resolution ready for prime time next week?
I would
or-
say it's ready for prime time next week. It's a pretty straightforward resolution. Again, just providing that direction to planning board so they know that that is something that we're looking for.
You know where it says that it has to go with the growth policy, can we also say and downtown plan? I know it says
Yeah.
in other policies, but let's call out the downtown plan.
I'm good with adding that. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yep.
That'd be great.
So is council okay with having that above the fold next time?
Yes.
Okay, and then again, if you look at it and you're not good with the wording, we can always push it to the next meeting if needs be.
Yeah, I think it should be pretty, again, it's a pretty straightforward one, so.
All right.
And then, what else? Land use
Pride
and
Park.
planning, yeah, we are also going to be bringing a resolution on Pride Park, and there's specific provisions around that one location in terms of permitted uses. So that will be in next go-around's packet. And again, I think that is just going to be able to provide good local space and local use, as well as providing opportunity for permitted use, which is great.
And so is the plan to have that for action next time as well?
Yes, please.
No, you mean
Oh,
discussion.
discussion, yeah,
Oh,
they haven't seen it yet.
Like, wait a minute.
Okay.
They haven't gotten to see the final product,
Okay.
we just got it this afternoon.
Below the fold, got it.
Below the
You
fold.
know how he does.
And then other than that, just an encouragement from land use and planning as well as planning board. Again, just to hammer home what Dave mentioned earlier, please go and review that growth policy. It is very important that community input is there because it is a guiding document for how our city will look. So I think that is worth everyone's attention. It's not that long, it's what, 86 pages?
Yeah, it was 100.
There's a lot of pictures and a lot of maps.
There's a lot of pictures, really good
Like,
pictures.
it's not too bad. So I do really encourage folks to take a look. Again, our planning board meeting is tomorrow. And I just think that any public input is appreciated. So,
5:30 to 7:30, same
Same
bat
location.
room.
Yep.
The bat channel is a little different online, but.
And they
Yep.
can also, put it in writing and
Yep.
send it in. That would
Absolutely.
be fine. And
Yep.
there will be other, public input. We just prefer to get it up front before we send it to city council. For the city council to have a public hearing on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
There'll be lots of discussions still. So it's, again, it's a big document and it makes a big impact on the community, so.
Mhm.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for land use and planning?
No.
All right, Public Works, and I will go to Committee Chair Ronnie.
Okay, well, where do I start? Okay, Thursday's meeting, you all received, the packet information for Thursday's meeting. I just want to make sure that there's no questions or discussion that anybody wants to have on that, because we are going to have to vote on that on Thursday. So if anybody has any questions on that.
The intent is to vote on it, so if you've
Yes.
got questions or
The
concerns.
main question I had was that it was, what, $217,000? And FEMA isn't releasing any money at all right now. What happens if they never release the money? Are we going to be okay as a city?
So
And we
Mike
have
has,
to cover that.
Mike has come forward and said if FEMA evaporates and goes away, what we will do is we will split that between water and sewer. The reason and logic behind that is there's actually a water line and a sewer and stormwater, I think, are the two, or
Well,
maybe
right
it's the
there.
water. We've got two lines
Public
that were there that
utilities.
were, we have public utilities that were there
Yeah.
Mhm.
and taken out by it, and we don't want to have that happen again. The
Okay.
implications of that would be that we only get to spend each dollar once, and so that would mean future plans might get pushed off a little bit or have to adjust rates to allow things to happen, so.
But the
So that's the
budget
plan
can be
fallback.
finessed
Yeah.
if we need to. I think that
Good.
was my big question.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question, it was a discussion that we had. so.
I bet you did.
Perfect. Any other comments or questions? Everybody feels ready to vote on this Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
All right,
Okay, you know, and that was, I mean, I'm just, sorry, we just had this meeting at 5, so you'll have to forgive me. So part of the, let's see, you already talked about the TA grant app being submitted. Mike said that he had applied for 2 grants for tree removal of dead trees and stuff like that around town. Because all federal funds were frozen, he didn't think he would get those, but he did get, one of the grants came through for $19,800. and the city match is mainly going to be in labor. They may have to take $1,000 out of parks for that. The solar grants are, on the Public Works and the Recycling Center. Those will be turned on shortly. They were waiting for those inspections to be, all the inspections had been done, and it was the communication, as the mayor said, wasn't going through. So they turned those on, and they came back and said, hey, you're generating electricity, and you shouldn't be. So he got that all straightened out because of that. There was some bad drainage up on, Adams, where it splits. The city did dig a ditch on the west side of where the street splits, hoping to help that drainage, so it was no longer, hopefully will help stop the flooding on one of the houses up there, filling her basement and stuff like that.
And was
So,
it icy on the street as well, so it created ice?
I'm not sure, I don't drive that stuff.
If
It gets
water gets
slick.
cold, I've heard that it does
Yeah.
do that.
So he is still working on, the EDA grant, they're still working on the design. It may or may not happen this year.
Yeah, we're still pushing and hoping that the,
Yeah.
from a decision tree, just so that council and the public is aware, we have not given up on this year. If they come back and say half this year, half next year, the thinking is we'll push the whole project so we only disrupt town one time rather than do half of it and then the other half.
That's appreciated.
For the frozen water lines around town, they're really hoping that all of those will be alleviated this month. It's usually the magic month for thawing out.
The good news
Concrete.
is I don't know where those are, so that's good.
I know.
For me, anyway.
And Mike did want everyone to know that the CIP is online. They'll be making it pretty with pictures and things like that, but please do go online as council and read through that if you can.
That's on the front page news,
I
and anybody in the public can go out and look at that and see if they identify things that are missing.
think that is missing, because it's not.
And did you want to give a brief part,
Well,
just
I,
summarize quickly what you
sure.
talked about?
All news.
It'll be quick. I went to
Okay.
the park board meeting last week, and it was very exciting, lots of great ideas. New tennis courts at the school, 4, we have to have 4 because in order to have a tournament, like a state tournament, we have to have 4. They happy with, the space at the high school, but it also interferes a little bit with disc golf, so we've got to really work with those 2 entities to, make sure disc, golf doesn't lose a lot of their real estate or find more real estate. Okay, that was one. Pickleball, they're raising money to, ultimately, they want to have 1 tennis court and 6 pickleball courts up there. Like, and everything is everything is in its infancy in the fundraising aspect. Okay, the third thing was, ice rink. Oh, that was very exciting. At the park, Tom Kuntz spoke about that. To have a skating season from Halloween to St. Patrick's Day. And we have a grant, for Eastern Montana tourism, winter tourism, so more people will come in the winter and do different things. And then we talked about the observatory planting trees to obscure the light from the fairgrounds. So it was a great meeting, well-attended, enthusiastic, and we need money.
And all of those things will come to council per our discussion
Yes.
of permanent structures on city-owned land.
Yes.
So we've still got to kind of finalize that process, but we've got
Process.
tennis, ice, pickleball, disc golf, trees,
Lots of fun things.
So many
Yeah.
fun things.
So,
and probably a version light, just FYI. So like we have somebody who wants to donate a bench for the dog park, to honor a recently deceased, and there was a kind of a comment that needs to be coordinated as well. And so we don't necessarily want that to be, a resolution of intent and but at the same time, we don't want to have it take off and get a life of its own. So there's still some discussion going on about what that looks like. And that'll be a council decision ultimately of what that process looks like.
An additional bench.
So like to put a bench in.
Like a
well,
memorial
somebody wants to
bench.
come put a park in Pride Park, or, and what is it gonna say?
We put that in Mike's lap too,
He's
gonna look at.
yeah, he's looking on the bench for that, but the question kind of came up, again, it's city-owned land, and it wasn't just this bench and this dog park. It was the same process that we could use today, tomorrow, and 4 months from now, exactly the same all the way around.
An application.
But I think that's all we pretty much went over. The other stuff Dave covered, so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions for Public Works?
That's all you did?
That's all it is.
All right, so that takes us on to correspondence. First off, Chelsea, would you like to share your announcement for 2 weeks?
Oh,
If
that's
fine.
a good
yeah.
call. I will be gone, for the next council meeting as well as the next land use and planning meeting. So with that, we did have a discussion. We are going to be canceling next land use and planning meeting for next Monday. Or not this upcoming Monday, the
Two.
following Monday. That's it.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Tupin, that I called you Chelsea.
That's okay. That is my name too. So as long as you don't call me Ditmore, we're good.
Councilmember Miller, did you have an announcement you wanted to share with council?
I do have a short, announcement that I have to make, and that is that, I'm going to be resigning from the council.
Oh, no.
You make us sad.
The reason being is that I will be no longer living in Ward 1. We
Oh,
are
that's true.
planning on taking off, moving.
Oh, gosh.
So my wife and I
That's
are
ridiculous.
currently working at the mountain, and we have given our notice, retirement notice, that we'll stay through April, and then May, we will put our house on the market and take off traveling. We have grandkids, kids and grandkids in Maryland and North Carolina, friends elsewhere. We just need to get out and travel.
Get that.
Good
Good
life
for
when
you.
can.
So, I do wanna apologize for not fulfilling my term here. It was a tough decision, but, you know, things change in life, and when it does, you have to reevaluate your priorities.
Absolutely.
So, I do wanna say it's been very interesting. It's been a learning experience working here. I appreciate the opportunity. You guys are a good group, and, I'm impressed with the unselfish dedication that you each put in here. You've certainly got my respect. And, apologize. But,
Sound like me now.
except I needed to go to the bars and have fun. So anyhow, a shout out to Dave. You're a hell of a mayor. You're doing a great job.
Here, here.
Will you remind us, did you just get reelected, so do you have the better part of 2 years
Correct.
in remaining in your term?
Correct.
So what we will do is, in talking a little bit with Doug and with Lonnie, what we will do is we will put an ad online for Ward 1. That is the new Ward 1 boundaries now,
Yes.
which has been done, and all those people that changed have been notified. And what we will do is we will put a deadline on that. The anticipation is, what we'll do is, we'll plan on, the council will select that person. We'll plan on the first meeting in May for that.
Okay.
And so what we'll probably do is, as we've got, as Doug's, whether we have Doug's, that first meeting in May be his last, or the last meeting in April, we'll kind of figure out between now and then. This is fast developing news. So thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Doug.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Doug.
thank you for
Very much.
Thank you, Doug. I enjoyed
Appreciate
it.
you.
All right, is there any other correspondence that anybody's received that they want to call out?
I did get, some correspondence the other day of someone in favor of the Brewery Hill project. And that's, I don't think I need to go in too much detail about it, but just the fact that it's gonna see great use, and they're looking forward to it, so.
Thank you. All right. With that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and open the floor to public comment. Same rules as before. If you'd stand, introduce yourself, address your comments to me, please, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. And we will start with those in the room who'd like to comment. So I'll go ahead and open public comment, looking in the room. Nobody jumping up to the table yet, so we'll go to online. If you'd like to speak online, if you could turn on your camera or unmute your camera so that we are aware. Going twice. going 3 times. We'll go ahead and close public comment. And again, thank you all those online and in person who joined us. Any last comments from the bench or the table? All right, I'll entertain a motion for number 12.
Move to adjourn.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all.
Say what?
Look at the time.
Thank you.